Can I swear?
No, but I'll just cut it out if you do.
I think the acceptance rate was 5%. Ryerson actually owns or rents out movie theaters to have classes in. Every professor in RTA was someone who's been there, done that, has a specific passion. It's dark, it was grungy, it's not like PE. You have to enjoy working with people because the media industry is not solo. There's also this reputation that you need big, fancy equipment. You don't.
Hey everyone, welcome to this new podcast that I'm calling the Q podcast, or the Canadian Undergraduate Experience. So I'm going to be bringing on current university students at Canadian universities and just chatting with them about all types of things university related. So their admissions process, student life, academics, all types of stuff. Before we jump into today's call, I want to quickly mention that all of the guests on the show are speaking only from their own experience, and they can't speak for other people in their programs or at their schools. Obviously, you should never make any important decisions based solely off of these episodes or off of any one source at all, and you should always make sure to do your own research. So, with that out of the way, our guest today is Annie Slotnick. Annie is a student at Ryerson University in downtown Toronto, Ontario. So she is in the FCAD, or the Faculty of Communication and Design, and specifically in the RTA School of Media, which stands for the Radio and Television Arts School of Media, in which there's 3 bachelor's programs. So there's sport media, new media, and media production. So Annie is in the media production program. Let's give her a call.
Hello?
Hi, Annie. Welcome to the pod.
Hi, thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Living my best life. Living my best quarantine life, should I say. Doing
That's
nothing.
The entire life. Yep. Have you lived at home this whole year?
Yeah, so I basically have lived at home for most of my university time. I'm in my 4th year. But for second year, I really wanted to move out. I wanted that experience. So I moved into an apartment downtown with 2 other girls, but it ended up being a really big mess. Now I'm back home.
How did you find them? How do you find people to room with?
I kind of just went with people that I knew. I think living with someone who's your best friend isn't necessarily the best idea unless you've lived with them before, or you've been in each other's lives a lot to know the nitty-gritty details of each person. Because when you live with someone, you really learn a lot.
All the bad things come out.
How messy someone is. I'd say just stick with someone who you kind of know but don't know super well, and you can keep it on a pretty respectful basis. But
yeah, I've heard that it's really expensive to live in Toronto, though. Is that true?
It's extremely expensive.
Oh gosh.
To the point where it's not unrealistic and it's not impossible. It just takes a little bit more work, and it also takes a little bit more leniency. I feel finding an apartment in Montreal versus Toronto is extremely different. Finding an apartment in Toronto, rent is probably 3 times as much, if not more, and also space. Toronto, if you're going to Ryerson, you're going to U of T, you're going to want to be somewhere downtown, central location, maybe near public transit. That's kind of difficult to do, but it's not impossible.
Does Ryerson even have a campus though, or is it just kind of buildings? Yeah, tell me about campus.
Yeah, sure. So Ryerson's located downtown Toronto, right in the heart of it, right by Yonge and Dundas Square. So I don't know if you know Toronto that well, but we have one of our bigger malls is the Eaton Centre. It's downtown. There's so many different office buildings down there, a lot of bank buildings. So during the week, it's really busy. So, my commute to school, I would get up, at whatever time it was. It took me about 20 minutes on the subway. I had my whole routine. It was great. But, it's downtown Toronto. There's a lot of fun characters down there. There's a lot of people. But if you're a fan of the city and, you like that kind of lifestyle, then it's great. Campus is kind of spread out a little bit. Not as spread out as U of T's campus, for example. Ryerson, it's all within a certain radius, but
okay.
Where U of T has buildings kind of all over. Ryerson's main campus kind of runs off of our main street, which is Gould, and we have, I want to say to my knowledge, we have like 5 or 6 main buildings that we kind of all go to. I could be completely wrong, and maybe just the 4 years have been shot to hell. But yeah, so it's like we have like kind of our main street, and we have like certain buildings for different departments. So there's like the Eng building, stuff like that. We have a big library, a student center.
So would you normally have your classes like all in the same building, or would you be traveling like far to get to one?
I'm literally all over. So I guess that kind of leads into like my program and like the classes and stuff. So yeah. I guess it all depends like what program you're in and what building you end up going to. So for me, in my program, I had a lot of required classes. So for example, being an RTA, which is like sort of the media-based section of Ryerson, we have one main media building, which is called the RCC, and within that building, everyone within like within a certain faculty. So FCAD is like the name of our faculty, and within that faculty, there's multiple different programs. So, for example, RTA media production, most of my like main required classes were in that building. So that could be anything from digital design to podcasting to whatever sort of digital media stuff. That was all usually done in the RCC. Whereas, like, if I was taking any other electives from Ryerson, like, I took, an English class, I took a creative writing class, that type of thing, those classes were usually just kind of spread out wherever Ryerson sort of had space. So, sometimes I'd have a class in the RCC on one side of campus, and then, right at 10 past the hour, I had another class, and I'd have to sort of scurry my little butt across campus. But yeah, it all kind of just depends on your program and like what classes you take, because some classes are just kind of randomly scattered in whatever random building, and then some are just based off of your program, I guess. Yeah,
so specifically in media production, how many of your classes were like decided for you, and how many kind of elective type ones did you have?
Depends on the year. So in first year, it was a lot more structured, so I had a lot more required classes. I think at pretty much all Ontario universities, I think it's kind of an average that you take like 5 classes. You can choose, I think, to take 4 if you want to, and then sort of, pick up another course in the spring or whatever. I always tried to do 5, mainly just because I had a goal of graduating in 4 years. There's
Is that
nothing
normal?
wrong with taking longer, but I was just like, if I don't do this in 4, I'm never going to do it ever. So
yeah.
Just get her done. So yeah, first year was a lot of structured classes. So I had like media history, I think was one of them. Probably the worst class I've ever taken.
Oh no, why?
Yeah. Oh, it was just so boring.
Oh.
But it was part of it. Like, it's first year. Like, the great thing about media production in first year is you kind of get a taste of everything. And you can sort of, as you go up by year, you can kind of slowly branch off into whatever direction that you like. So, for example, if you decide that you're really into sound, the audio class I took in first year was great, and then I could have decided, okay, I want to take more audio classes and be more audio focused, or I want to focus more on single camera productions. So you could kind of like branch out, but first year is pretty structured, and it's really hard.
Yeah. So when you go in, like, I feel like there's a lot of schools where you kind of go in and you're undeclared in a faculty or something, but you go in directly already in media production, right? Yeah. So the degree itself that I have or am achieving to get is a bachelor's degree in media production. So that it's pretty specific. Like, it's not like a general arts. It's not, anything too broad. It's pretty specific. Yeah. How do you feel about career prospects with that? Good question. I'm so far into it now. Like, I've got basically 2.5 months before I graduate. So I think, to be honest, I haven't even had time to think about careers. With COVID and the way that my life has gone, I feel like I've just been focusing on just getting it done. I feel like if I put too much pressure on myself to think about what's going to happen or something that's already happened, it gets too much and it's unrealistic. So I try to just keep my brain focused on, okay, what you need to focus on right now is graduating. Okay, if you want to graduate in the spring, how are you going to do that? Okay, take X amount of classes, blah, 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 and just kind of focus on it like that. So yeah, I guess that's very responsible of you. Pretty wild. Yeah. Do you have like a co-op type option or anything like that? Yeah. So with media production specifically, it's actually mandatory that you do an internship in your 4th year. So essentially in your first year, it's kind of like pretty structured. And then
second, you can kind of branch out, do a couple electives, whatever. And then once you hit fourth year is the biggest year in media production. So essentially, the second half of your year in fourth is basically an internship. And then the first half or the first semester is your final practicum project. So if you wanted any sort of co-op experience, most of the time that's usually done in fourth year. I'm not too sure if you can do a co-op beforehand. I just never really wanted to and never really paid attention long enough to realize that maybe I could. But I specifically just did my internship in fourth. So that's I think, as far as I know, the most popular option for wanting to get industry experience.
Yeah. Does Ryerson help you find one or have a system that you go through?
I'd like to say yes.
Be honest.
They definitely weren't as helpful as I would have liked. I think obviously because this year is very different. I mean, with COVID, all of the internships have to be remote. So basically, I was really bad about my internship. I will not lie. I really left it to the last minute. I never wanted to do one. I have lost a lot of motivation with school. I don't think it has anything to do with my program. I think I just am at a point where I'm just done. So the thought of having to do a mandatory internship in a field where, I'm starting to feel a little bit distant from was a really difficult thing for me. So basically what happens is during the second semester of your fourth year when you're taking your internship, you're part of a class called the master class, which is essentially all of fourth year RTA. So all the people who are, supposedly graduating in the spring of 2021, that's when you do your internship. So on our class site, I know for every school it's different. Ryerson, we call it D2L. I know at McMaster they call it Avenue, whatever it is. And you basically just go through postings. So Ryerson will post, internship offer at, Sportsnet doing, X, Y, and Z. And so you can basically just apply to any internships that you see on that posting that interest you. If not, if you have friends in the industry or a company that you want to work for, you can basically, talk to your supervisor and say, hey, I have this really cool internship opportunity. Can I go through with it? And it just kind of has to get approved. So Ryerson, I think, doesn't help as much as they should. I think also the information about it is quite vague, or maybe I just didn't know where to look.
Yeah.
But, you basically just scroll through it and you kind of just pick and choose what you want. Biggest advice is just apply to more than you think, because hearing back is, it's a lot. It takes time.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. You were saying there was a class with everybody in media production in it. Is that a big class? How many people are in it?
Yeah. So essentially with all of the required classes, from first year to fourth, it's all of RTA media production of that year. So for example, in first year, in my mandatory media history class, it would be me and all of the first year RTA kids. Is
that a lot of people though? How many people are in your program? Because I know it's super competitive entry, right?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I'm going to be honest, okay, I guess this is the way that I would do it. So for example, in my first year class, do you know there's this movie theater downtown, because Ryerson's located in Yonge and Dundas downtown area. There's a movie theater in one of these buildings, and Ryerson actually owns or rents out movie theaters to have classes in.
Oh,
which
cool.
is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So for example, one of my first year classes, it could fill an entire movie theater.
Oh, that's pretty big.
So that's the way that I look at it.
So there must be so many applicants, considering, because you've told me about how competitive it is to get. Yeah, tell me about admissions, because I want to hear about that. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, for sure. So it's when I started in media production, I think the acceptance rate was 5%. I think now it's 9%.
Oh wow, so high.
I know. I don't know. It's been a while. I don't know the exact number. I know Ryerson doesn't really post it. I think that's just something that you can find on Reddit or something. But yeah, so it's a really rigorous, really intense process. It's not that bad. I'm making it out to be really bad. It's just a lot of work. I think my biggest advice is if you're considering it, you need to like it. You need to like working with your hands. You need to like the world of media. You need to enjoy it, because if you don't, you're going to hate it, because that's what you're doing. You are in labs for 5 hours working with cameras. You're working with everyone in your program. You get to know people. So you have to really like it. You have to enjoy working with people, because the media industry is not solo. You are not working by yourself. You are working in a team. you have to like it, and you have to be able to get along with people, because if you don't,
yeah,
you're not going to do great. Anyway, so application process. So for me, I don't know if it's changed since I started, but basically what I did was there was an interview portion, there was a sort of essay portion, and then there's a reference letter. So the essay portion was essentially just, I think it was like a 2-page like document, pretty simple, and they give you a set list of questions, and you basically write out the answers to the questions. So like, you know, a very generic one, I guess, would be like, oh, why media production? What's something you do on your own time that makes you a good candidate for this position, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And then the reference letter is really, really important. It just gives Ryerson an idea of what type of person you are, would you fit into the program. And I think any sort of job referral is really important. It's kind of the same thing here. You want someone that like knows who you are as a person, knows your personality, knows your work ethic. So, for example, the people that wrote me a reference letter, I think I had 2. I had one high school teacher, and I think the other one was, I can't remember who the second person was, but you want someone that knows you. And then the final stage is the interview process, which a lot of people get really nervous about.
Yeah.
I'm the opposite. I love interviews. I find that people can get to know me way better in person than on paper. I'm the type of person where I can write something up and it sounds really different compared to when you see me face to face or when I talk. My voice is like my tool. So that for me was like, I think the reason why I got in. I think if there wasn't an interview, I don't think I would have gotten in.
So yeah, I feel like everyone has a different strength in that, but like,
yeah,
you got to make it shine on that one.
Yeah, for sure. That's totally fair. It's not for everyone. But, you know, like any interview for any job, you know, be confident in what you have to say. You know, don't be too nervous, which I know is hard not to, but it's just a conversation. It's just a professor. You know, they're probably doing, you know, 30 of these a day. I highly doubt they're thinking about, you know, if you've stuttered once or made a mistake. I think they're just there to get to know you. So.
Is that who interviews you, like your future professors?
So, yeah, I mean, I guess it depends. So the person who interviewed me was just a prof at RTA. Like, it can be, usually it's an RTA professor, but sometimes it can just be, you know, it really depends. To be honest, the person who interviewed me is now teaching me a class. But that class has like 100 people in it, and I don't think he knows I exist. So that's fun. But
Do you know?
It's usually just the prof of RTA. So.
Do you know some of your professors? Like, now that you're in 4th year, you're supposed to have your small classes by now, right?
Kind of, yeah. So I have, so since 4th year is kind of like your last year and like your main focus of what you're taking, I've definitely seen familiar faces, a lot of the same people. Once you kind of move up, like in the year, the amount of like electives and classes that you have open to you they kind of slowly shrink. So a lot of the people in my year in RTA are in all of my classes, which is kind of nice. Professor-wise, it always changes. I always get someone new.
Yeah. Do you feel like, I mean, obviously you know the people in your program well now. Do you feel like they're good people? Like, is this harsh admissions process working and like pumping out the best students?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, when I first started at Ryerson, I was extremely judgmental. I think because I didn't fully know where I fit and I didn't fully know what I liked. So I was very judgmental of the people who, you know, had been interning at Rogers already. And, you know, to me, I was like, oh, show off. But at the same time, it was like these people just really like what they're doing. And I think it took me a little while to understand that, to respect it. I think the people that I have worked with in my program are extremely skilled, you know, farther than I ever thought someone like could be. The people in this program are really passionate about what they do, and you know, the people that I judged kind of in the beginning ended up being people who, you know, were just like me and enjoyed media, enjoyed filming stuff, enjoyed that whole process. So,
why did you feel like applying to this program at Ryerson like was the thing for you? Like, what had you been passionate about in high school and before that made you feel like this was it?
So, okay, I guess for me, when I came out of high school, I was never a very academic person. I never really succeeded in the STEM area of things, and as much as I would love to be a woman in STEM and, you know, thriving in that, it just wasn't for me. I was very confused coming out of high school. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I still don't. That's extremely normal. And, you know, what I basically thought to myself was, the decision you make now about where you want to go to school is not permanent. You don't have to. So many people change their minds. So many people decide to switch programs, switch schools, take a break, come back. It's so different for everyone.
Totally.
So that kind of, I think, gave me a little bit of reassurance. But what I kind of was like, okay, what do you enjoy doing? Just for fun. Like, it doesn't have to be school-related, nothing. Okay, you know, in my own time, I loved, in high school, like, going to the park in the summertime with my camera and, like, taking pictures for Facebook. And, like, I loved doing that, you know? And, like, I had my own YouTube channel for a bit. All of those videos are private now.
A little embarrassing.
You know, I thought about, like, what I like to do. And I was like, okay, this is what I like, so why don't we try that? So I just went with what I thought was right at the time. And, you know, I stuck it out. And, you know, even if I don't love it as much now as I did when I was, like, 17, I still like it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I went with this because I don't think I would have done anything else.
Did you apply to anything else?
Yeah, so I applied to 5 schools. I got into all 5, and I got into Ryerson last. So I applied to Queens, McMaster, Ryerson, Trent, and I can't remember what the last one was.
It's okay.
I applied to, I think, McMaster for just general media studies, which they are not known for, and I think I would have hated it.
Yeah.
I applied to Queens for, I think, just like a general Bachelor of Arts type thing.
That would have been different.
I applied to Trent for, I have no idea what I applied to Trent for.
They have like a media studies.
Because I went to the campus and I looked at it and it was really nice.
Yeah, it is. But Trent campus is like the opposite of Ryerson campus, though.
Oh, it's so beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, it's really, really pretty. I don't think I would have liked living in Peterborough, but the campus itself is really pretty, like right on the river, like very naturey and fun, but I'm definitely a city girl. So
if you're used to
both. I definitely could live in both, but I like being able to just walk around the corner and get a burrito at 2 a.m, or, you know, go downtown and eat at a local restaurant. So.
And when you had all 5 acceptances, what was kind of the thing that pushed you to choose Ryerson? Was it the school or the program or like the city?
Ryerson was my top choice just because the way that I looked at it with making a decision was what school had the best program for what I like. It wasn't about the school. It wasn't about the reputation. I didn't honestly give about, you know, other schools' reputations. I didn't care. That wasn't my thing. I didn't need to go to, like, I know in the States, like, Ivy League schools are a really big deal. That never mattered to me whatsoever. I think I'm grateful enough to just have access to an education. So the way I saw it, it was just what program is the best for what I want to do, not what school. And Ryerson just happened to be the best school for media. And media production just happened to be the best program for what I wanted to do.
Do you think that was the right kind of mindset?
100%. I think going into it based off of a school that you want to go to, that's fine. And I will not judge that because every person is different. But for me personally, you know, if you're at a school that you love, but you're in a program that you hate, what's the point? You're just going to be miserable because the stuff that you're doing every day is stuff from a program that you just don't like. You're taking classes that you don't like. You may be at like a really prestigious and fun school and like they have great parties, but you're not happy. So you have to find the balance. And I think for me, I'd rather be at a school where I like it. I like the people. I like the campus. I like the program. That for me is a win-win. So program's everything, for sure.
Speaking of the parties, though, I want to hear about Ryerson social life.
Yeah, so I was definitely not someone who participated in, you know, a lot of the, like, Frosh Week stuff. I'm, like, probably the worst person to ask about this.
No, but I feel like there's so many people who don't, so we need to hear their part, too. Like,
yeah, for sure. I guess, okay, so for me, I remember distinctly in first year, I didn't want to go to Frosh Week because I was really scared. I also forgot to, I know RTA has their own Frosh, and I just forgot to register for it.
Oh, no.
So I was already kind of an outsider in that. but I had to go pick up my student card. And I remember it was during Frosh Week. There was like all these booths on campus and everything. I was like really shy. I had like my little backpack, and like I was just kind of like walking around. And I went to go pick up my student card, and I was about to head home on the subway. And I remember thinking, I was like, just stay, just for a minute, and just see what happens. And I walked over. There's a little pond on campus called Lake Devo, and it has a bunch of rocks, and in the winter it's a skating rink, which is really nice, so that's a really nice asset. But I was just standing there, and this random girl I've never seen in my entire life just comes up to me and says hi, and I was like, ugh. oh my god, like, wow, this is so crazy. And then we spent the entire day together. We went to, because we were like right near the Eaton Center, we went to the Eaton Center, we hung out, and then literally that night there was an event on campus, like some sort of concert thing. We went there. She introduced me to a bunch of her friends who all applied to biomedical science. And that first year was really fun. And I had a solid group of friends who I really liked. And then I don't really talk to them anymore, but it was great. I think doing Frosh and participating in that is definitely good. And if you're into that experience and you want that time, I think you can definitely find it at Ryerson. I don't think it's as like party and like super, you know, socially, like super social, like for example some of like the bigger schools like Queens, I want to say, but it's definitely like, it definitely has everything that Queens does, or any other school does, but I think it's just a little bit different because it's like so central and so downtown.
Yeah.
A lot of my social life isn't necessarily specific to Ryerson, but if we're talking about Ryerson itself, there's definitely a couple places that I hung out in first year. I can't remember, like, there's like a few. There's like one of those restaurants, I think it's called like Warehouse, where it's like everything's $5. One of those opened up downtown. It only was good when I was of age, because I couldn't get in if I was not 19, but
yeah.
A lot of the times, we'd go to restaurants, bars. I mean, we're downtown, right? Like, there's so many things around. I think like a couple classic Ryerson hangouts. It's kind of, as an older student, it's kind of gross to think about, but there's this place called Tequila Jack's, which like people would go to. I think that's like one of the main ones. And then I think the rest of it was just kind of house parties, and you just kind of hang out with like your group of friends and stuff.
Do things like Greek life exist at Ryerson?
When you say that, do you mean like frats and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, to be honest, not that I know of. I think a lot of the frats and frat houses is all stuff that is mainly at U of T, I want to say. I've been to one frat party, and it was in my second year. It was on like the classic frat house street in Toronto, and I've never hated anything more in my life. It was so disgusting. I remember like being so nervous, and like I gave the guy at the front like my ID, and because I was a girl, because it's a really sexist system, it's like we don't have to pay, we just like go inside. That automatically kind of made me feel disgusting, but we went in, it was dark, it was grungy, it smelled like pee, and like it was just not a fun time, and it was just not great, so I left.
Okay, so your recommendation is don't go to the frat parties.
Like, it's not as good as you think it is. That was my experience, though. Maybe I was looking in the wrong place, but like it's not a movie, It's frat houses are just massive old houses that are kind of dingy that a bunch of sweaty boys live at.
Okay. Changing subjects a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about percentage-wise-ish, like people that are international versus Toronto versus elsewhere in Canada. Like,
yeah. I mean, Ryerson's a commuter school. That is for sure. So I know a lot of people in my program that like some live in like Ajax, Barrie, like Oakville. A lot of people commute. So, a lot of people at RTA, like especially media production, take the GO train in, and they take the GO train out. That's a huge, huge resource for Ryerson kids.
Do you get like a pass for the GO train or anything?
I don't think so. To be honest, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I think that's something that if I was a commuter student, I would know, but I just, like, I don't know, my Presto card's like attached to my dad's credit card. Like, I don't think about that. I'm very privileged in that sense. I think there must be some sort of thing that commuter students can have, or like I know like on smaller campuses, like my boyfriend goes to McMaster and they have like bus passes that they get. So I don't know if Ryerson has anything like that. But yeah, so Ryerson is mainly commuter kids, and then the kids that are international that come from, all over the world. I don't know too many, to be honest. I don't know that many. Maybe I just haven't looked in the right places, but there definitely are some international kids. I know someone who lives in BC. They live in Toronto during the year, and then around the holidays they go home. That's sort of it. I don't really know the international kids that much. I don't know if Ryerson even... I don't know if in RTA we have any. Maybe none that I know of or haven't met yet.
Yeah. If Ryerson was going to attract international students, which program do you think they'd be coming for? Which ones are the most renowned?
Oh, that's a really good question. To be honest, I don't know. I would say our media stuff is kind of what Ryerson's known for, but I think we do have some really good... I've heard our early childhood care program's pretty good. We're not a school that's Waterloo where we're known for our academics or anything. So we're still a great school, but I just don't know off the top of my head what specifically kids would come for.
Do you know any stereotypes of Ryerson students?
I don't know. To be honest, I feel Ryerson kind of has a reputation for being lame. I don't know. I feel especially among kids in my high school, in my generation, it's, everything to go to Queen's and go to McGill and go to these really what Ontario classifies as top-notch academic schools, and specifically Queen's. I'm not bashing Queen's at all. Great campus, love it, whatever. But I feel Queen's has a reputation. It has a reputation for partying. It has a reputation for all the popular kids in my high school to go to. All the jocks and all the quote-unquote pretty girls of my high school went to Queen's.
Totally, yep.
Queen's Hoka was, the event of Ontario universities. So, to be honest, I don't really know what Ryerson's known for. I don't think they really necessarily have a good or bad reputation. I think we're just kind of, we're just kind of there.
So do you think there's not a lot of school spirit, as a result?
I think there definitely is. I just haven't been a part of it. I think, we have one of our gyms or athletic centers on campus. It's so beautiful. It's called the MAC. I don't actually know what it's called, to be honest. See, I'm a terrible student, but I've gone there a few times to work out, and it's a beautiful, beautiful facility, a beautiful basketball court, a really nice gym, a really nice pool. So yeah, I think we have some good athletics. I think. Then again, I've never been to a game, so I don't know.
Do you guys get free access to the athletic stuff as a student?
Yeah,
That's
so
nice
access to all of it. As long as I have my student card, I can come and go as I please.
Kind of on the topic of really nice gym, do you have a favorite spot on campus?
Yeah, I think I was on campus the most, in the first couple of years of school, I think, because my classes were more, closer together than they are now. I really so we have a student center. It's called the SLC. It's newly renovated. It's got 7 floors, I think, and each floor is a different theme. One of them's sky, water, whatever. And there's just one part of the SLC where it's all open and glass, so all the sun shines in, and you can kind of sit on little bean bags, or you could sit in a corner and study. So in between classes, I'd go there with a cup of coffee and a sandwich and just chill out. I would say there, or there's a couple of little labs in ERCC that I really like, that are kind of cozy.
That's cute. What would you say is the best way to meet friends? Where have you met most of your friends?
I think most of the friends that I made have just been within my program, because RTA is, I won't lie, a bit of a cult. Because we're all in the same classes, right? All of the classes that are offered to us, everyone's in it. So I'd say there, but I guess for other programs I couldn't speak off of them, but I think there are a lot of clubs and different things on campus that you can definitely join, a lot of programs. So I'd say there. Kind of in high school, how you could join chess club or whatever it is, Ryerson definitely has stuff like that. But I think for me, the main place is just within my classes.
Okay, I do want to talk a little bit more about your program, because I feel media production is actually a really well-known one. Do you have space for a minor, or to add another major or anything?
honest, I don't think so. Not, like, I don't know of anyone in media production that's done that. Like, it's just strictly been media the whole time.
Okay, just side note. The RTA school has 3 undergraduate programs, right? Sport media, new media, and media production. What is the difference between new media and media production?
Media production's better.
Not totally biased at all.
No, new media is more, it's more about, like, media patterns and, like, coding and programming rather than, like, producing actual content. Like, media production is very hands-on, whereas new media is more theory-based and, like, coding-based, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah. What kind of support, like, services and stuff are available for RTA students?
There's a lot. So I guess technical-wise, we have kind of I guess the place where we rent all of our equipment is called the EDC. It's located, like, in the RCC building, which is, like, sort of the main media building. And you can rent, like, literally everything to your heart's desire. Like, also, if you don't have access to, you know, a computer with editing software, like, more specifically in Mac, you can rent those at the EDC, which is great. So technology-wise, I guess, technology-wise, it's
Yes.
great. We have access to, like, all of the equipment, SD cards to our heart's content. So that's great. I guess more, like, academic support-wise, pretty good. I mean, all of the profs, like, in my program are people who have worked in the field. They've all done it. They've been there. Some of them are graduates of RTA. Like, they get it. That's one great thing about my program is I'm surrounded by people who know the industry, who care about what they're doing, and, like, they just get it. So I have access to any one of those profs, previous profs, can email them, do whatever. Also, when you're in the RCC, a lot of the time you just bump into people anyways. Like, you just kind of see teachers around. Even if you don't want to, you do. So you can ask them anytime. There also is a academic sort of support system within RTA. This young woman, I don't know if she's specifically to RTA. Her name was Anika Taylor. She was wonderful. I had a couple of stressful times, and she was always around to chat. I'm not sure if she's very specific to RTA, but her office was in the RCC. So Ryerson definitely has people like that you can sort of just call whenever you need to. So that's really good. And that's as far as I know. I mean, a lot of it is just, I don't know of any, like, specific centers or anything, but I just kind of ask my professors or send an email to whomever, like, if I need something.
With the professors, have you found that their attitude is, like, very much that they want to help you succeed, or are they more, like, trying to whip you into shape?
No, they're really great. They're really, really great. That's one thing I can kudos RTA for. Every professor in RTA was someone who's been there, done that, has a specific passion. You know, I took an editing class, learning how to edit on Commuter, which is something that I'm, like, very, very vaguely, like, familiar with. As any video editor knows, Premiere's a beast of a program. There's so much you can do on it, and it takes so much time to learn. But once you learn it, it's fantastic. There's, like, so many things you can do. I'm someone who's not great when it comes to learning software. I'm not great at it at all.
Oh, yeah?
So it was really nice to have a professor who was really willing to take that time. You know, obviously it was over Zoom, which made it harder, but, you know, anytime I didn't understand something, I'd say, hey, could you go back? Of course, do it even slower, would give you specific steps. It was great. I remember taking a digital media course in, like, second year, and I was really bad at it, like, really bad. It was learning how to use Adobe Illustrator, and I remember just being so confused. I didn't understand the layer system. It was a whole thing, but my prof, like, specifically printed out pictures and steps of exactly what to do for me, which was great. And I kept those in my backpack, and anytime we would do another workshop, you know, I'd, like, look back and be like, oh, what does this tool do? And I'd have access to it. So profs are more than willing to help. You just have to ask.
Yeah, that's so nice. All those softwares, like I think you said Illustrator and, like, Premiere, are those included as a student, or do you have to buy those? Because I think they're expensive.
They're really expensive. To To be honest, I don't know the answer to this question. I think now it's available to students with your Ryerson email. I think you can get it. I don't know for sure because when I first started, I don't think I knew about it, and also my parents bought it for my brother, like for when he was doing stuff like this. So I think I just kind of just had a membership because of my family. Mm-hmm. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, that Ryerson kids do have access to it. But I think it kind of changes every year depending on the budget and stuff, which is really frustrating. But either way, you have access to the Adobe Suite at Ryerson.
Would you say that you need to have your own like specific type of laptop or like cameras and stuff, like, because even though you said you can rent all these things, but or like borrow, I guess. Yes. Like, okay, what are the requirements? What do you think you need?
Okay, well, first of all, having your own laptop is so important in this program. I couldn't survive without it. Like, I mean, for one, the addition of just like renting it is just so much extra work, and like you have to return it, you know, within 24 hours or something, and then you have a paper due. Okay, well, you can't do that. I guess just saying, like, having your own computer is probably the most important and the most crucial, because everything you do in media is digital. Virtually everything. Except for maybe the occasional reading and syllabus that your prof prints for you. Everything is done online. Our entire online school site, D2L, where all of our assignments are, is digital. And being able to access that whenever you need to is really important. As for, like, equipment, I think there's also this reputation that you need big, fancy equipment. You don't. You don't really need it. I mean, having a good quality laptop is, like, kind of the main thing. Headphones is kind of only important if audio is something that you're really passionate about. I mean, you know, a lot of kids in RTA have the fancy sort of Audio Technica headphones, which is, like, the standard, I guess, not company standard, program standard, I guess, for headphones. Whereas I just had, like, my mom's, like, over-ear, like, Sony headphones. Like, it wasn't anything too fancy, and they did just fine for when I needed them to. But, you know, if you're an audio nerd and love that stuff, then you'd probably have good headphones. Yeah. It all depends. I think the only essential is a laptop. But, like I said, depending on what your passion is, you'll want to get different equipment for different reasons.
Yeah. You were talking, I don't know if you said tutorial or workshop or something, but I was curious about kind of the breakdown of like lecture versus hands-on stuff.
Yeah, so a lot of the times, mainly like in the earlier years of RTA, you have a lecture and a lab, and they go hand in hand. So, for example, I'd have like a lecture, and then along with the lecture, you know, the next day or a couple days after, I'd have a lab. And the lecture would just be like learning all the material, and then the lab would be executing all of it. But that's not always the case. Like, some classes are just strictly a lab where, I guess, for example, I took a multi-camera class, which is essentially just all multi-camera productions are like news, sports, some TV shows like sitcoms, stuff like that. So anything that's basically live TV, or like a sitcom or a show that's filmed like on a set, is a multi-camera production. So a lot of that stuff is done on campus in one class. So for example, my multi-camera class was 5 hours long, and it would run from like 12 until, I can't do math, 5, 6, whatever it was. But it was great. Like, that was my favorite class. Like, I got to just go in at noon, have lunch, and just party for like the rest of the afternoon. Like, it was my favorite class. Like, we were in the studio, we were in groups, we were making our own productions, we were doing hands-on work. But yeah, that's like one of the labs that we had. So it all depends. And then there's like a digital media lab that you can take, which is just 3 hours of learning Illustrator, which is a bit of a hard one, but a lot of fun. So it all depends. What
would you say to the people who, I'm sure, like, think that you should just learn all this stuff on your own, like not through a school? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, totally. Like, you don't have to learn it through a school. I think all of this stuff is easily accessible online. I think the only thing about learning it in school is you get a better idea for the industry. Online, you can learn any skill you want. You could learn how to do Illustrator in like a 2-hour-long tutorial. I mean, you wouldn't be very good at it, but you'd understand the basics of it. But whereas when you have like a person who's been there and done that, who understands the industry, who understands people, it's really beneficial. I mean, but it's totally what you're into, you know? But I think also, I mean, that question comes along with like, I think education is extremely important, and education to me is very important. I think everyone should have access to an education, but, I'd much rather go to school and learn it than just sit and watch like a 3-hour long YouTube video. But it depends. That's some people love to do that. So
you were talking about doing like group work a lot and like working with other people. Would you say most of your assignments is like being creative and creating something in a group? I don't have a very good grasp of like what you'd actually do. Like, what are you making?
Yeah, so it depends on the class. But a lot of the times when we're in labs, like, my multi-camera class, my single-camera class, you're in groups. Like, you're working in a team. A lot of media stuff is in a team. Everyone has a specific role, and you follow that role. So, for example, like in my multi-cam class, we were in like groups of 6, and we would each get to write our own script. It could be a sitcom, it could be like a newscast, like it could be anything you wanted, really. And then, one person would be the director, one person would be the producer, one person would be the writer. So what I mean by you're working with people is you can't make a production just by yourself. It's impossible. It's virtually impossible. Like, you can't do stuff like this by yourself. It's very team-based. And it's not because of Ryerson. It's not because of Ryerson's classes. It's because making a TV program or a movie takes people and it takes time. So they're teaching us that by making us work together. You have to learn from the very beginning that, I want to be a professional podcaster. Well, you need a team. Like, you want to be, like, work in news. Well, you're going to need a script assistant. You're going to need a director. You're going to need camera 1, camera 2, camera 3. You're going to need, like, that's how it works, right? So I think, it obviously depends on, like, what specifically you're doing, but a lot of the work in media production is all team-based. Because the title in itself is media production. You are producing media content, and in order to do that, you need a team. So, all of the assignments are very production-based. So TV, audio, news, sports, all of that is in a team. It depends on your class, though. Like, if you're taking an elective that's like an English class, you're obviously just going to be doing it by yourself. But in media production specifically, you're always in a group. Yeah. From what I can remember.
Yeah. With all those assignments, though, have you found the workload is, like, a lot or kind of light? Like, is it more than what you expected, I guess?
I think the best way to put it is just very time-consuming. Like, it takes a lot more planning than you think it does. I wouldn't necessarily say the work is hard. There's definitely elements of it that are hard, but there's also stuff about it that's every school assignment, though, Sometimes it's just hard. But I think the main thing is it's just a lot of work. It takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of time. So that's, I guess, the main thing that I'll say, is it's just a lot of planning.
Do you have regrets? Would you do anything differently?
I know it sounds cheesy, but I don't think I really do. Everything happens for a reason. Like, I had the hardest moments of my school career in university. I had, like, the times where I literally did not want to continue, and I did not care, and I did not want to be there, but I still did it. Like, it's all part of it. It comes full circle. I think university's like that. No matter what school you go to, no matter what program you're in, you're going to have days where you don't want to do stuff. You're going to work with people that you don't like, but that's all part of it. So I think Ryerson specifically, I'm lucky, I guess, in the sense that most of the stuff that I've done I've really liked. There's stuff that I maybe didn't like, but I don't necessarily regret it, because it just taught me that there's going to be people like that in the world. And you're not always going to get to pick who you work with.
So do you have any advice for people who are considering Ryerson or specifically considering media production?
I don't really know if I have anything to say with Ryerson as a whole. I think I have more advice regarding media production, only because I remember the application process. I think my best advice is don't sweat it, but be willing to put in the work, because it's going to be work. It's going to take time. It's going to be kind of frustrating. Really enjoy what you're doing, because, like I said, that's what this program is. It's hands-on. You're creating stuff. That's what you're doing. So if you don't like it, then don't put in the work to do it, because you're not going to get it. But if you really like what you're doing and you put in the work and you try really hard, you got a good shot.
You can't go halfway in.
Yeah, exactly. Be open-minded. I know it sounds generic, but I went into the program really closed-minded. I went into the program thinking I knew everything. I went in very judgmental of other people, and it definitely took away from my experience. So be open-minded. Be willing to learn. My God, be willing to learn, because there's so much you don't know. There's still so much I don't know. And you're there to learn. So be open-minded, don't be judgmental, and just work really hard, because it's going to take time, but it's going to pay off. Yeah, so I'd totally be happy to answer any questions if anyone has any. I can give you my email. It's just annie.slotnick@ryerson.ca. I don't know if Rachel wants to put that in.
I'll put it in the description.
Put it in the description. There you go. Yeah,
link down below.
Pretty good with emails. I'll reply. Don't be scared. But yeah.
Yay. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. It was nice to chat, even if it was about school.
Thanks again to Annie for coming on the podcast. Like she said, you guys can feel free to get in touch with her by email if you have more questions about the life of a media production student or a Ryerson student. You can also get in touch with me by contacting contact.cuepodcast@gmail.com. That's contact.cuepodcast@gmail.com. So you can feel free to reach out if you have comments, questions, requests, or if you would like to come on the show. So you can subscribe to the podcast if you want to hear upcoming episodes where I'll bring on more current students in other programs at different schools. Thanks for listening.